time for the best coverage of the top stories in sport. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Welcome to this Wednesday edition of the show. A little bit of a different show for you today. We'll be joined by Ryan Ballengee. Golf News Now. Get some thoughts with him on Tiger Woods' upcoming schedule, which he hasn't announced, but it sounds like it's going to be more robust than it's been in years past. At least that's the plan. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, as Mike Tyson would say. Also talk about what's going on with TGL, the PGA LIV Golf merger. Where does all of that stand as LIV Golf gets their season started? PGA Tour is underway. We'll talk about all of that with Ryan Ballengee. A special conversation on today's show with Ken Goldin. He is the king of collectibles. He does a great show over on Netflix. We'll have a few segments with him to talk about the collectibles industry, baseball cards, auction houses, a lot of different items I want to get into with him. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl. What does it mean for cards for Eagles players like Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley? If you're a collectibles enthusiast, you're going to love it. And even if you're not, you should watch anyway. Why? Because I said so. So let's get things started. Vladimir Louissaint is here on Wednesdays, and he hangs out with us today for a couple of segments. So we've got the NBA getting started on Wednesday night, the official second half, even though it's well past the halfway point. Lakers and Hornets, the only game on the docket on Wednesday night, Vlad. And I was talking about a little bit with Kurt Heelan yesterday, and I'm curious to get your thoughts as it relates to dark horse picks, because everybody's on Oklahoma City. Everybody's on the Celtics. Less so than the Cavaliers. I mean, it still blows my mind today. Celtics are plus 175 to win the whole thing. Thunder are plus 200. The Celtics have 7 more losses than both the Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers are 9-1 to win the championship. You still got value on a team with the best record in the NBA right now with the Cavaliers at plus 900. And then there's a whole bunch of other teams. And I want to focus on the other teams. Where do you see a dark horse or two when you think about teams that could make a run to the finals and potentially win the whole thing? Go.
If you're talking about a dark horse, it would probably be like a team like Memphis or Houston. Because I still think the favorites are the teams like Boston, like you said, the defending champs. And Denver, you can't tell me a former champion's now they still favorite. You know what I mean? So I can't say Denver because they have Jokic, who's the best player in the game, and Jamal Murray, who's starting to play like Jamal Murray, coming off a double nickel that right before the All-Star break. So I'm not going to say Denver because they actually still, to me, are a favorite. But a team like Memphis, I thought right before when the whole Jimmy Butler wanting to get out of Miami, I always thought Jimmy Butler to Memphis would have been a perfect situation. They would have had to go another guy to go with Ja and Triple J, who's, Jaren Jackson Jr., who's having a great season. I think they're a team. If everything falls for them, they can make a run in the West. In the East, it's really Boston. I mean, Cleveland, I know, has a great record, Jason, but it's still, you got to prove it to me. You still got to show it to me. And they haven't done it in the past. And we know what Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is about. They're the defending champs. And I think that's why everybody has them going through. The Knicks, I still think, are pretenders.
I got to tell you, I'm gonna disagree with you. And I know this is going to sound like some East Coast bias and some my Knicks fandom coming out, and I get all that. But until I see the Knicks, and I'm not saying they are going to be the dark horse, until I see the Knicks with Mitchell Robinson and OG Anunoby on the court and this entire roster together, until I see that, I am not writing off the Knicks as the dark horse. I will say on top of that, I don't think they realized, maybe they did realize it and they just couldn't keep him, and that's why they didn't. I don't think they realized how valuable Hartenstein was to that team. And if they did, then again, it might have just been a situation where it was, they just couldn't get all these guys possibly under the cap. I don't think they were going to be able to. Yeah, and that might have been, and that might be. But I can see that dude was a heart and soul rock guy for them in the middle in terms of being able to rebound,
absolutely.
defense, a presence down there, and that has hurt them immensely. But until I see what this group looks like with a Mitchell Robinson on the floor and with an Anunoby and this whole thing together, as opposed to a guy missing here and there every night. Now, look, they may never get to that point. Some NBA teams don't. You can get Robinson back and Anunoby back, and the team still winds up, struggling to figure out how to keep other guys on the floor. No, I think with Anunoby and Robinson on the floor, you become a much better defensive team. I really do.
I get that. But even with Anunoby there in the first game against Boston, they lost by 30. Without Anunoby a couple of weeks ago, they lost by 30. They have a game against them this Sunday. This is a very important game because they have to show against those Eastern powers of Cleveland and Boston that they can compete and contend.
They don't even have to win. Just don't get blown out by 50. I think they play the Cavaliers. I think they play the Cavaliers in the next few games as well. I think they've got the Cavaliers and Celtics.
Cavaliers and Celtics Friday, Sunday. So these games right after the break.
But I think the Knicks still have an opportunity to be that dark horse. I'm not saying they're there yet.
Through 54 games, and I'm a diehard.
Yeah.
They haven't shown it against the two teams they're going to have to face in the Eastern Conference.
I don't disagree.
But if you're talking about dark horses, I really like that team in Memphis. I really do.
I like your Denver point more.
But Denver's more of a favorite to me. That's why I can't like if you're talking about the two favorites in the West, it's Denver and OKC.
But they're 13-1. That's not a favorite. It is the fourth best odds, but it's 13-1. But if you love Denver that much, then you should be going and putting a futures bet on Denver right now at 13-1, Vlad.
I will.
And Memphis is 33-1 right now, Vlad.
That's a dark horse.
That's a dark horse, and that is a value bet. Ding, ding,
The Knicks have been one of the top 5 favorites for the NBA Finals all year.
Yeah,
they were third at the time. So
and I will never discount. And I know people are going to say they have no defense in the middle, no rim protector. Until I see what this team looks like in the playoffs, I can't wait to see Luka and LeBron once this thing gets oiled up a little bit more and greased up a little bit more and see what those guys look like together by the time we get to, March, April, May. I'm excited to see what that thing looks like as well.
Hopefully we'll see tonight. And then don't forget next Tuesday, Dallas, LA. I can't wait.
It's the Mark Williams revenge game tonight in Charlotte.
Is he going to play?
I don't know. I have no
Dalton
idea.
Connect revenge game?
I don't know. I have no idea. Stephen A. Smith said something that got my attention yesterday. God, I wish I didn't see it, because now we got to talk about it. We'll do it next. Let's take it to segment 2 on this Wednesday edition of SportsWrap. Ryan Ballengee talking golf in about 10 minutes on the show. Ken Goldin, my conversation with him from Goldin Auctions under the eBay umbrella. Get some thoughts with him coming up. He's got the Netflix show as well. Continuing the conversation on, I guess you could say it's on the NBA. Vlad Louissaint is here, hanging out with us on the show today as well. So I wish I didn't see it. It's one of those things where you just wish you didn't see it. Like your parents stumbling out of the bathroom naked when you're a kid. One of those things you just wish you never saw. I was scrolling, doom scrolling as my partner likes to call it. Doom scrolling through social media yesterday, and I saw this comment from Stephen A. Smith that got my attention with regards to the future face of the NBA, and that is a conversation of substance these days. Who is that future face of the NBA? But it wasn't a particular name that was suggested by Stephen A. Smith that got my attention. It was a comment he made about who that future face could or couldn't be that got my attention. Watch for yourself.
Absolutely right. My personal opinion is I don't believe an international player can be the face of the NBA. I know they're global iconic figures. Their popularity extends globally, but the NBA is an American-born sport. And it needs to resonate in America. And if it doesn't resonate in America, then it's not going to matter to America how you resonate beyond. And so that's just my mentality, UD. That's how I think about it.
The more you talk, the dumber you sound. This is the problem. Where's the clip of him saying, "Lay off the weed"? Because maybe he got a bad strain. Hold on. Let me just say this real quick. There are so many levels of how stupid this comment is. There's so many levels to it. Let me start with the obvious. The sport of Major League Baseball, it doesn't get any more American than Major League Baseball. Okay? Doesn't get any more American than that sport. Who's the face of Major League Baseball right now?
Shohei.
From Japan. He doesn't even speak English.
He does.
He doesn't speak English.
He does, but he doesn't want to speak it to the public.
He can't. In public, he doesn't speak it, and that's what I'm talking about. The face of your league doesn't speak English. Okay, which is another topic for another time, because I get yelled at by my partner who's from Asia if I say he should speak English. Okay, that is the most American sport there is. Baseball, apple pie, the summer, boys of summer, all that. He is your face of Major League Baseball. Now you've got the NBA with this litany of stars, whether it's Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Victor Wembanyama, Wemby from France. And I don't think anybody's going to question that Wemby is potentially the future face of this league. Okay? He may or may not be, but I mean, he is certainly high on the list. Luka is certainly on that list, especially now playing in Los Angeles. And I've got Stephen A. Smith sitting here telling me that it won't resonate. Let me tell you something. If the media pushes something enough, Vlad, it'll resonate. They can put anything they want out there, and it will resonate. And so I just think it's idiotic.
No, I think what it is,
this.
I think what happened is he didn't want to say what he really wanted to say, and because he really couldn't say it, he tried to say something. He tried to say it and got caught up. I think what he wanted to say was, it's an American game, but it's usually the face of the NBA has always been African American for the most part over the years. So if that's what he's trying to pretty much say, because
he wants to make basketball great again, is what you're saying. He's doing his Donald Trump. He wants to make basketball great again.
Well, not to that effect, but yeah, I get where you're going. But yeah, it was basically because Anthony Edwards had said he did not want to be the face of the NBA.
Yeah.
So when an American superstar says he doesn't want to be the face of the NBA, then the question is going to be, then who's going to be the face of the NBA? Well, let's look at it, media. You voted over the last 6 years at least 5 foreign-born NBA MVPs. That's the media. You're not telling me Jason Tatum, like when Jason Tatum has, said, hey, man, I should be a well-known star and everything like that. The reason why he's not more of a superstar than he is because the media hasn't promoted him, hasn't talked about him, even though he plays for one of the most storied franchises in NBA history. So he's wrong. Stephen A. is wrong in the fact that the face of the NBA can't be foreign. That's not true. That's absolutely not true.
I think there is something to what you're saying, though, that it's sort of a subtle nod to the idea, well, that it's got to be a black person.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, we live in different times, my guy. A cornerback is making a pick six in the Super Bowl, and the starting quarterbacks of the NFL Super Bowls are African Americans. Like, people are going crazy when they're seeing stuff like that. It's all right if a foreigner is the face of the NBA, because guess what? If the foreigner has personality, what do you think we're going to happen now? Why do you think the league was so happy when the trade for Luka happened?
Yeah.
And the Luka trade kind of just nullifies Stephen A's argument. A trade about a foreign player
It broke the NFL. It broke the NFL. It broke the NFL. Yes, it absolutely did. It broke the NFL.
So you can't say that a foreign superstar is not the face of the NBA when we've been saying for the longest Luka. What we're trying, and not only is the media's fault, it is also the players' fault. Let's be real. John Morant, off the field, off the court problems. Yeah. Zion Williamson, off the court problems. with some of the stars that we would want to promote. And he's
when Zion Williamson says feed me, when Zion Williamson makes a shot and he says feed me, he really means it.
Okay, you want to say off the plate problems, but nonetheless, the stars that we did want to promote, they haven't kind of lived up to the expectations off the court.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'll also say this: the Luka thing is going to be great for the whole league.
Absolutely,
it's not just great for it's great for the whole league because you're going to have more eyeballs on him because he is in LA, Vlad.
Well, that's the other good thing. That's the other good thing when you have superstars in big markets.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Vlad, it was an abbreviated visit, but I still enjoyed having you.
Of course.
Yeah, have a wonderful rest of your week down there in Miami. I am jealous.
Happy hump day to everyone.
It's cold here in Las Vegas. Feels like it's never going to warm up. But they keep telling me this is a mild Vegas. I don't know. We're coming back. Don't go anywhere. Coming up in 10 minutes, special conversation with Ken Goldin. He is the founder of Goldin Auctions. Talk about some sports memorabilia and collectibles talk today on the show. Thought we'd do something fun. Had a chance to catch up with him last week. You'll get the entire conversation on all things sports collectibles, autographs, memorabilia, all that good stuff. I want to talk some golf. Let's bring in our friend Ryan Ballengee, Golf News Net, to hang out with us on the program. I was watching Tiger last night. First of all, hilarious watching him hit a 199-yard shot, 99 yards, which I thought was just great. But the reality is he's out there playing right now. First, I want to talk a little bit more about what's going on with him going forward. But first, I wanted to get your thoughts. We're about 7 weeks in here to TGL. What are the reviews on it so far? I remember I talked to you after the first edition of it, the first week of it. What are the reviews? What are the results? What are the ratings saying about it right now?
I'll say for the ratings, I think they've blown away expectations from ESPN's side of things, from I believe it's Josh Carpenter over at Sports Business Journal, who's kind of the golf ratings guy these days. He said that ESPN's expectations, they would have been happy with 500,000 average viewers per episode of TGL, and they're in the 800,000 range. And that'll come down some from the President's Day tripleheader because you had matches in the middle of the day, and I don't care if everyone's off. They're not watching as much TV then. So I'll bring it down a little bit. But I think ESPN is thrilled with what they're getting. What I saw on President's Day was very interesting in that I feel like a number of people, and obviously I'm a pretty online person, but people are very online about golf, seem to kind of come around to TGL because the matches were close. The rule change that they made around what's called the hammer, kind of elevating point values by hole, that seemed to work really quickly. The quality of the golf has gotten better. And it seems like a lot of the players who are involved have bought into this idea of showcasing their personality. So I think it's starting to kind of come along. I'm almost certain there's going to be a season 2, probably a season 3. And they're just going to have to figure out who to swap in and swap out in future years. Do they expand? Do they have more teams? Is this the right length of season? I think that is, how do you cycle people in and out, all that good stuff. But yeah. I think they're laying the groundwork for a successful run, however long it is.
Yeah, it's almost like a preview season, in that regard. And I remember the UFL years and years ago, 15 years ago, did something similar where they just had 4 teams, just a few games, just to give people a taste of what it was going to look like. As for Tiger's schedule, he definitely piqued some people's curiosity when at the Genesis he said, I'm going to play more this year. It's not just going to be the majors. Has anybody been able to suss out what that means since he made those comments?
Well, he also made those comments in the end of 23 as well, and said, I plan to play once per month. And then life and injury got in the way, and he didn't. So I think if he could play a schedule that was reminiscent of him in his late 30s, he would say he would, from here, go play Bay Hill, go play the Players, go play the Masters, go play maybe Quail Hollow, although it's not Quail Hollow this year, but the Truist event, which is normally in Charlotte. He would go play there, go play the U.S. Open, Memorial before that. But I the schedule's a little different now, right? All the big money events, all the signature events don't tick up perfectly with his schedule. A lot of them do, right? Arnie, Jack, obviously the Players isn't a signature event, but that's a lot of money. The majors line up well. Maybe he would go play Travelers.
Oh my God, my buddy Nathan Grube, it'd be a dream come true.
I mean, they would go gaga for that up there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could think about March, April, and May, and then it starts to get a little tricky because June and July, you've got one major per month. You've got a signature event in June. You don't in July. And then he's probably not going to qualify for the FedEx Cup playoffs unless some kind of miracle happens. So he's got August offset. At that point, his season effectively becomes kind of February through July moving forward, playing those events because he can get in all the signature events because the exemption is specifically created for him to play in all of them. And he can get into 3 of the 4 majors as a lifetime exemption. And then for as long as he wants to play the U.S. Open, the USGA is going to let him play.
I want to ask you about where things are with the PGA Tour and LIV Golf, and we'll do that in just a moment after a word from our friends at Credit Associates. Are you $10,000 or more in credit card debt, in over your head, trying to make monthly payments? There's a powerful debt relief program the credit card companies don't want you to know about. Overcome the debt trap of multiple credit cards, high payments, and high interest rates that keep you in debt for decades. With one affordable low monthly payment, Credit Associates Debt Relief Program can help you resolve your debt in as little as 24 to 36 months. That's going to save you thousands of dollars and decades in debt. Find out how much you could save right now. Call 1-800-747-5362 or just scan the QR code below. We heard Rory talk about, Donald Trump's involvement in this LIV Golf PGA Tour thing, saying that, Trump really cares about the sport. PGA, the LIV Golf season has started. The PGA Tour season has started. Where are we? Are we any closer to anything here when it comes to PGA Tour and LIV Golf?
It sounds like a lot of the sketches of the deal are done, but there are some particulars that just kind of hang over this whole thing and have the entire time of board seats, valuation. I think they've kind of settled on that at $12 billion. How much exactly comes in from the Saudis? How is that actually spent? Because if you listen to McIlroy or Tiger or Adam Scott, for that matter, kind of talk about the money from Strategic Sports Group, which is $1.5 billion already injected into the PGA Tour's for-profit subsidiary, they really haven't done anything with it, and they don't know what they're going to do with it. So they haven't put it back into the product yet. They've talked about acquiring some things, but what? If you have $1.5 billion, you don't know what to do anything with. What are you going to do with another billion on top of it that you also don't know what to do with? So I'm very curious what the Saudis want from their money, or if they have a clear plan of what to get with that money, other than having LIV probably be absorbed in some way into the PGA Tour, maybe call it the PIF series or the Aramco series or something, and spend that on someone on purses and someone on God knows what. So I think there's still some stuff to figure out at the kind of finer points of the deal. The outer sketches seem pretty clear, and then trying to get the Trump administration involved and Donald Trump personally, because of his relationship with MBS and the Saudis, to kind of grease the wheels with the DOJ, which at this point seems like a fait accompli that if they agree to a deal, the DOJ will kind of look the other way on any other concerns that maybe the Biden administration wouldn't have done the same way too.
Ryan Ballengee, Golf News Net. Check him out there. Listen, I always appreciate you, my friend. I'm glad we were able to get you on today. Let's talk soon.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Lots more to do. Ken Goldin, Goldin Auctions, next on SportsWrap. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of SportsWrap. We like to do things a little differently on Wednesday. Sam has the day off. Vlad sits in on the show. We like to talk about different things, different topics. And I thought we'd do something a little different today. So last week I had the chance to catch up with Ken Goldin. He is the king of collectibles. He has a show on Netflix. He has a relationship where his company, Goldin Auctions, operates under the eBay umbrella. And for anything sports collectibles, autographs, baseball cards, football cards, basketball cards, anything sports cards related, Goldin Auctions is really one of the go-to places. And he is one of the go-to guys when it comes to all things collectibles. If anybody knows anything about me, all you got to do is scroll through my feed on X. I am a huge fan of the collectibles industry. Look behind me, you see it. Autographed stuff, autographed baseballs, collectibles, figurines, things like that. I have plenty more. I just don't have enough room in the shot to put them up. But I thought it'd be fun to catch up with Ken Goldin from Goldin Auctions. We did a few segments with him. We did an entire weekend edition of SportsWrap with him. So when you hear weekend brought up in the conversations coming up, that's why. But I talked with Ken Goldin of Goldin Auctions. We're going to give you the whole conversation right here on SportsWrap. If you love collectibles, you're going to enjoy this. I thought it was a great time to get this guy on. Ken Goldin is the founder and CEO of Goldin Auctions. You've heard all about them if you know anything about the collectibles industry, and even if you don't. And Ken Goldin is our guest on SportsWrap this weekend. And look, let's start with what just transpired in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts gets his Super Bowl title, Ken, and a lot of people start running out to grab autographed stuff, rookie cards, all of these different things. Saquon Barkley's value, I would imagine, is going up given what just transpired with him this season. Give me a sense for if you want to run out now and go get the Eagles, is this the time to go and do it?
Sure. I mean, well, first of all, both of those men are starting at an extreme low price point. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Jalen Hurts probably has the most undervalued cards and memorabilia for the quality of player he is of any quarterback in the NFL.
Wow.
So whereas you can say, typically you might say, hey, don't buy right after the Super Bowl because that's when they're going to be hottest. This particular case, I think you can go out and buy Hurts tomorrow. I think you can buy his key rookie cards as long as they're reasonable priced, his key autograph cards, his key game-worn memorabilia. And the reason is, yes, it's getting a bump, but it's starting from such a low point that I can certainly see as you go into next season. What if the Eagles are the favorites? What if the Eagles, start, reeling off 8-10 wins in a row to start the season? What if they get to another Super Bowl? It's amazing. You look at all the quarterbacks in the NFL. Hurts is obviously everybody in the NFL is behind Mahomes, but he's behind Joe Burrow. He's behind Josh Allen. He's behind Lamar Jackson. He's behind, Herbert. I mean, he might be behind Tua. I mean, he is so low on the collecting totem pole because he's been just drastically overlooked. And the best thing that happened to him was it was a passing Super Bowl for him. It was not Barkley rushing for 220 yards and scoring 3 rushing touchdowns. Okay, so people got to see Jalen Hurts. So I could see the prices of all of his stuff. Yes, they're higher today than they were 3 weeks ago. Okay, but I could see in September when we get in the NFL season them being higher than they are today, and that's typically not the case. And I would say the same thing applies to Barkley. Running back prices have really been, really been devalued, discouraged, depressed. Since the days when I collected, and you had guys like Walter Payton and Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith. Those were the guys everybody wanted. Those were the valuable cards. They were more valuable than like the Troy Aikmans of the world back then. But today it's all about the quarterback. So I think those are two individuals you can definitely buy, and especially Barkley Eagles stuff, because so little of it is out there right now.
Do you recommend graded versus ungraded when you're talking about cards and buying those guys? Do you recommend one versus the other?
Personally, if you're buying what I would call, and my inexpensive is going to be different than everybody else's. So when I'm going to talk about an inexpensive card, if you're buying a card under $100, under $150, and it's a new, fresh card, you probably don't need to get it, don't need to get it graded. If you're spending any type of serious money on the card, and I'll say $500 and up, the grading standards are so difficult, and the PSA just announced new standards where they claim they haven't changed it, but everybody looking at the standards say, hey, this is tighter than it was posted 3 weeks ago. That to me, I'm a huge collector, and unless I'm buying like an inexpensive Tyrese Maxey card for my daughter, I will not buy anything ungraded, because as good as I am and as experienced as I am looking at cards, I don't know what these graders are going to do. I mean, I can think of cards a 9 or a 10, and it can come back an 8. And this happened to me before. So if I'm an expert and I feel that way, I think that's part of the reason why, graded cards are so popular, and these companies are getting so much graded right now, because people want to, buy the graded cards.
Yeah. And I got a lot more to ask you when it comes to getting cards graded, and a lot of different areas that I want to kind of delve into. We're joined by Ken Goldin. He's going to hang out with us for the entirety of this weekend edition of Sports Wrap. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. I got to ask him about Paul Skeens, because that is the card in baseball right now that everybody's going after. So I want to talk to him about Paul Skeens. We'll do that coming up in a couple of minutes, including a card that he was trying to get a young man to auction off with him. He decided to go with Topps and Fanatics. I want to talk to you about that as well. We'll continue on this weekend edition of Sports Wrap. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap. Paul Skeens, he is the toast of the sports collectibles world right now, which is unusual because he's a pitcher, and pitchers aren't usually big commodities because they can flame out, they could have arm injuries. It's one of the topics we were discussing with Ken Goldin of Goldin Auctions, who joined us over the weekend on Sports Wrap. And I thought it was such an interesting conversation with him on the collectibles industry, and it was a great time to sort of bring him in and sort of introduce him to our weekday audience as well, because we have different audiences, different shows. So I wanted to get into it with him. And we talked about Paul Skeens, and he had some involvement himself personally with a very high-profile Paul Skeens card recently. So here's more of my conversation with Ken Goldin, the founder of Goldin Auctions, and in this segment, spending a lot of time talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates' young ace, Paul Skeens. Joined by Ken Goldin. He is the founder and CEO of Goldin Auctions. Got a great show on Netflix. Go and check out that. You got enough to keep you busy?
Yeah, I mean, as I tell people ask how I like, filming for Netflix, King Collectibles, The Golden Touch. And what I tell them is that actually feels more like work than what I normally do, because I actually have to be in the office at a specific time. I've got to spend a certain amount of time in a certain location, and, you got to get mic'd up. So it's like more as opposed to me, hey, making a call, I can do my business, while I'm on the Peloton. I can, get a deal and close the deal while I'm exercising otherwise.
I love it. I got to ask you about Paul Skeens. I've told the story on the air. Recently, I pulled a Skeens. I don't collect as much as I used to, but once in a while, I'll go out and buy a few boxes. Card shop opened right across the street from me here in Vegas. And I went and bought, and I got a mystery blue parallel, and it doesn't say who it is. And I had to go research what it was, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Paul Skeens autographed to 150 on card. Like, wow, you can't make it up. It was a $220 box. Like, the mystery redemption in some places had sold for like $1,000. I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah. So I redeemed it, and it'll be showing up any day now. The question I would have for you is pitchers. Because I think pitchers are it's so hard to hang on to a pitcher knowing
100%.
Knowing that he could blow out his elbow. Not that you wish this, but Steven Strasburg, I think of that. I think of guys like that. And I worry, is hanging on to it the right move when I could probably pull in $1,000 for the card? Would you hang on to it, or would you be more apt to run out there and sell it?
Look, I like Paul Skeens as a pitcher. I know people want his cards. I certainly want people to consign his cards with Goldin. But to me, his hype is so high. There is no doing better than he did in his rookie season. And I saw a Strasburg. As you mentioned, his high point was his rookie season. His high point was actually the 3 months before his first game and the 3 months after his first game. That was the peak. And I remember like his super was, and this is way, way, way before COVID, way before everything else. It was like the highest priced card. I think it was like 114,000. Today, that card may go for, $15,000. Okay. It's just pitchers, nobody has faith in pitchers. Nobody has faith long-term in pitchers. Every single solitary one of them who throws 100 miles an hour plus at 18 to 22 has got hurt. I look at Lincecum, Tim Lincecum, the freak, won back-to-back Cy Young awards. I mean, his cards trade for very little, and he will not be inducted in the Hall of Fame. I look at King Felix. Everyone thought, oh my God, this guy's amazing. I think he's eliminated from the Hall of Fame voting already in his first year, or got just barely 5%. So I think that Kerry Wood, going back to more my era, God Blue was everything. So yes, every one of these pitchers have peaks. I look at Nolan Ryan, okay, and Nolan Ryan, the longevity, people want the hitters. They want the record breakers. You look at guys like Clemens. So, yeah, I think that if you have a pitcher and he is hot and he's doing well and the market wants him, sell it. If it's your favorite player and you want to hold on to him forever and he's on your favorite team, then realize you're a collector. You're not an investor, and what you get in the future may be 25% of what it's worth today.
Please, I got a closet full of Kevin Moss. I mean, really. 100%. Come on. I got a closet full of Kevin Moss because he was my favorite when I was younger. If there's anything that could make Skeens buck the trend of what we're talking about with pitchers, is there something you can see?
Sure. What would happen for Paul Skeens is that he gets traded before he's up for arbitration. Pittsburgh is, and again, one thing about me, I'm very blunt, I'm very opinionated, and I'm very honest. So some people may not like it.
No.
That said, Pittsburgh is a black hole for collectibles, especially for trading card collectibles. Yeah, you got Clemente, okay, but typically players in Pittsburgh do not go. It's like at the bottom 10% of all values of teams. So he has to get to the Yankees or the Mets or the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Phillies. And he has to be healthy for many years. I mean, look at Kershaw. Okay, the great, the best long-term pitcher we have that has been active, accomplished the most. People consider this guy as the next Koufax. Obviously, he got injured a couple times, but even his cards don't go sell for. And his superfractor with all he accomplished, still would probably only sell for $250,000.
Wow.
So, and then that's Clayton Kershaw. So you have to put this stuff in perspective and realize, people talking $1 million, $500,000 for a debut card. No, that's not happening. I don't know anybody who's willing to spend that much on a modern day pitcher who has had less than 1 year in the major leagues.
Ken Goldin is our guest. He's the founder and CEO of Goldin Auctions. We will continue the conversation with him, talking about some of the things that maybe some people don't like about the card industry these days. We'll get into that next on SportsWrap. All right, one more segment with Ken Goldin of Goldin Auctions, founder and CEO, hanging out with us, talking about the industry. One last thing on Skeens, and then I want to ask you about something that I think sticks in a lot of people's craw when it comes to the card collecting industry. On the Skeens 1 of 1, the patch auto, the debut patch that made so much news, young man pulled the card, and there was this great debate about what he should do. The Pirates offered him a ton of stuff to give them the card, or trade to give them the card. I know you had made an offer to the young man that I thought was very generous. He ultimately decided to go with Fanatics and Topps in terms of auctioning that card off, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong. What did you make of the way that whole situation played out and sort of the way it worked its way out?
Sure. Look, this is the problem that I have a profound problem with the manufacturer of trading cards wanting to control the entire distribution and the entire industry. I will openly tell everybody and have that I do not like the fact that Topps, is Fanatics, we'll call them. Fanatics has a auction house where they are trying to keep all of the cards that people pull. So it's like, hey, you get a big hit out of our pack, put it, forget the thousands of people who spy and sell cards throughout the world, forget the bigger platforms such as Goldin Auctions and our parent company, eBay, sell it with us. And the problem in this case is, you were partially correct about the history with that card. Is we had told originally, I did a video saying, hey, we really want this card.
Right.
Nobody had found it. And then it was announced that an 11-year-old boy found it, and he was from LA. So I said, oh, he's from LA. I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do, because they just had the fire. So I made a video and I said that we will auction the card for free. Whatever our buyer's premium is, we are going to donate to the LA wildfire recovery effort. And hopefully somebody out there can get this message to the family. Within 48 hours, we discovered that the card had already been, by the time I made the video, it was already redeemed from Topps and signed a contract with Fanatics. And of course, Fanatics must have scrambled. They must have been, oh crap, Ken Goldin just said he's going to give all of his money away to charity, so we better copy him,
right,
and we better do the same thing. So they came out and said, we have the card and we're going to donate our proceeds to charity. But the fact of the matter is the card was a redemption, which meant that nobody, when the family contacted Topps to get the card, they basically said, hey, consign it with us. He didn't have an opportunity to negotiate with anybody else. So look, point blank, sorry, David. I hate the fact that Topps owned, and David is the president of Topps. I hate the fact that Topps owns an auction house. I think it's bad business. I think it drags down your product, and you should get rid of it. And I think that there's enough great marketplaces and auction houses in the industry to handle the buying and selling of trading cards. Topps should focus on manufacturing and producing the best trading cards they possibly can and ensuring it's a healthy market.
I could not agree with you more. I didn't know that was going to be your answer, and I couldn't agree with you more. Last one before I let you go. Breakers.
Yes.
I don't like it. I don't like it. They take all the boxes. They get so much of the inventory. We see what happens, all these crazy pulls that come out of them. How do you feel about the breaking industry and what it's meant overall to the collectibles industry as a whole?
Look, I think people like box breaks. I do it with my son. I've done a lot of Instagram lives boxing box breaks, but there's a difference between box breaks and people who are professional breakers. I don't fault professional breakers who have built a business around it. I do know that some people don't like the fact that they think they get favorable treatment, and they do. They get special breakers boxes, things like that. It's certainly an unregulated type of industry. But I think what you have to realize is for people who can't afford a $2,000 box to spend $50 and get a chance.
It's a lottery ticket. It's like a scratch off, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it gives them an opportunity. I think that there are some bad actors in the breaking industry. I think some of the behavior of some of the breakers online leaves a lot to be desired. But I think that there are a lot of good breakers out there who sell the breaks at fair markups, at fair prices, and I also think breaking, in a way, is entertainment. People get excited by it. People enjoy watching. So if it's done right, I don't mind it. In fact, sometimes if I'm up at 1 a.m, I'll pop on and try and hide out, and it helps me see what the product looks like. So I'll watch somebody break a box.
All right. Fair enough. And look, I do think there are some honest, genuinely good breakers out there, but I have seen some of the ones that I think you're referring to, and some of the behavior that goes with it, and some of the shtick that goes with it, and sometimes it could just be tough to watch. Listen, Ken Goldin, I got to say, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. I hope we can do it again sometime down the line. I love what you're doing with Goldin Auctions. Continue the good work, my friend.
Thank you so much. And hey, everyone, go to goldin.com, check out. I think we got 7 auctions running right now, everything from $5 to $5 million.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at it. You got a lot of stuff on there. I might have to go take a look myself. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jason. Have a good one.
And that is going to wrap it up for this edition of Sports Wrap. Thank you to our guests. Always love being joined by my man Vladimir Louissaint, who hung out with us on the show today. Ryan Ballengee, Golf News Net. Go and check them out. And Ken Goldin, Goldin Auctions. If it's anything having to do with the sports collectibles industry, Ken Goldin is certainly your guy. We'll be back here with you on Thursday. Recap what? Lakers Hornets? I don't know. Whole bunch of good stuff. We'll see you then.